not all that far from here at the cozy confines of SoFi Stadium just outside Los Angeles. Mexico and Venezuela. Venezuela winning the game 1-0 thanks to a Salomon Rondon penalty in the 57th minute. Mexico had a penalty attempt of their own from Orbelin Pineda with about 5 minutes to go in regulation, but he could not finish. And so Venezuela go top of Group B, 6 points from their first 2 games. Only one man who could start the discussion of this match on this panel. It's a man who's part of the Venezuela team that went all the way to the semis back in 2011. Alejandro Moreno, the floor is yours.
Well, you said there's only one man that can actually speak to this result. There's only one thing to say.
I'm waiting for it. I know.
Vamos, Venezuela! Vamos! Vamos, Venezuela! And can I just say, there are many angles that you can take in this match, and I'm sure that you're going to be really upset with Mexico and frustrated.
I'm always upset at something.
So on and so forth, and we'll get to that in a second. The first 25 minutes of the second half for Venezuela is what has you, or has me, as a Venezuelan fan and as a country, thinking so many big thoughts and dreaming so many big dreams with this group. Because in what was a very evenly played first half, and probably you could argue that Mexico seemed to be carrying, if not the possession, some of the momentum, or most of the momentum going forward. Now, it was evenly played, it was physical.
Some dangerous chances for Mexico.
Salomon Rondon hits a post, but Santi Jimenez has a 1v1 opportunity against Rafa Romo, and he comes up with a save. It's actually a miss hit from Santi Jimenez. So we get to halftime. In years past, and prior versions of Venezuela, as they come into the second half, there would have been an intimidation. There would have been perhaps a thought in the back of their minds to protect first, to, you know what, let's continue to absorb pressure and maybe we get something on a set piece, maybe we go on the counter. Instead, what we saw from Venezuela, and it's not just the players, and I think this is important to point out, it's also the manager, in making the substitutions that he made to address some of the needs of Venezuela on the field so that they could go on the attack, so that they could go on the offensive, so that they could take the initiative away from Mexico. And it is what happened in the first 25 to 30 minutes in that second half, where it was all Venezuela all the time. You talk about opportunities. Soltero has a great opportunity where he dribbles the defender, takes it to the outside, goalkeeper makes a good save. But beyond that, there were just half chances, and you could feel the momentum. And Salomon Rondon was always dangerous, and he was always willing to hold up the ball or get in behind or always get involved. And you get the team sort of feeling a whole lot better about themselves, and potentially out of a very good play down the right-hand side. It is a penalty kick, 100% a penalty kick. Salomon Rondon takes it, 1-0 Venezuela. You think they're going to take a step back? Well, no, they didn't. They actually kept going forward. Eventually, Salomon Rondon ran out of legs, and I think that's important for Venezuela because you lose that focal point of a guy who can actually hold the ball up. Mexico had no other choice but to push numbers forward, and they really pushed Venezuela back. It was a combination of Mexico being desperate and Venezuela saying, we'll protect, protect, protect. I must confess, I may not have looked at while I was watching it, but I may have been a little nervous when I kept seeing that line getting further and further and further and further back, and our center back will continue to be a source of stress. I have a lot of stress in my life, but they are a source of stress for me. And for whatever reason, they're allowing the ball to bounce in the box and miss clearances and so on and so forth, tension, but eventually Venezuela see it through. And what a big, and I mean big result this is for Venezuela. If I'm not mistaken, if I know my Venezuelan soccer history, this is the first time ever in the history of Copa America that Venezuela has won 2 games at the group stage. And we're through, baby. We don't have to stress anymore. Pass on the stress to somebody else.
Yeah, that's right. Mexico going to have a lot of that stress in the coming days. Aside from the penalty spot, where did Venezuela beat Mexico in this game?
Salomon Rondon. I mean, he's the heartbeat of this team. As he got stronger, Venezuela got stronger. You could see him bringing down balls to Soteldo, and they were going on the counter. They were going in with the initiative in the final third, being aggressive. In the midfield, with Cáceres Jr. coming in, Batista brought him in. He was very good, how he was driving forward. Those first 20 to 25 minutes for Venezuela were very good. And then you see Venezuela, because they're trying to hold on to a result, and Mexico are pushing numbers forward, come into a shell. And I thought they were very fortunate to come out with a 1-0 win, but it's a win, and it's an important win. But certainly, as Mexico is pressing forward, as they're getting chance after chance after chance, and even a penalty kick, it was really almost a matter of time, but they didn't break. They bent, but they didn't break. So you have to give Venezuela a lot of credit for how they did this. I just thought the second half, the midfield completely ran over Luis Chavez, completely ran over Luis Romo, who was very good for Mexico in the first game. In the second half of this game, for that 30-minute stretch that Ali's talking about, he was non-existent. Cesar Montes ends up leaving with an injury. All of a sudden, your spine, talking about Memo Ochoa, not in this tournament. He's gone, starting goalkeeper. You're talking about Cesar Montes, you're starting center back. He's out now. You're talking about Edson Alvarez, your captain, defensive midfielder. He got injured. He's not in this game. You're talking about Henry Martin, who was the most reliable forward that Jimmy Lozano, the head coach of the Mexican national team, had. He's not in this game. Santi Jimenez, the one opportunity he did have, he couldn't capitalize. He looked very frustrated in that first half. Everything that could go wrong for Mexico went wrong, and I'm not surprised. I look at this team, and this is the worst generation of Mexican players that I've seen in my lifetime. The worst pool. And then you take out the names that I just mentioned, how could it not go south for them?
Yeah. Worst pool, and I think what has to be said is worst performances. I mean, you can say that the guys aren't playing at the high levels or they're not playing where the guys have been playing in the past, and we can point to Jimmy Lozano, and I think there's a lack of tactical nous there, a lack of control of the team.
He has blame as well.
He has his blame. But my goodness, I mean, you're talking about players who are decent in Liga MX, unable to combine for passes, unable to do anything. Santiago Jimenez scores 20-some goals in the Eredivisie, and he's whiffing on a one-on-one. I mean, this is a group of players who, whatever they do elsewhere, when they come and they put on that green shirt, they seriously underperform. And it's very easy when things go bad in a program to talk federation and coaches and Liga MX. And we did that when the U.S. failed to qualify for the World Cup in 2018. We talked a lot about Sunil Gulati, and we didn't talk about the players. Man, the players for Mexico are bad. Even the good ones are bad when they play for Mexico. And that's something that I just can't get over as a Mexico fan.
You can still blame the federation for why they're bad. You know, these players don't go out. They're not in Europe. There are fewer Mexican players than ever before in Europe. These players within their own domestic league don't get minutes. They're not protagonists in their own teams, in their own league. So all of a sudden, when you put them together, this is what you get. And guess what? Venezuela, they got players in Europe. They're advancing. Panama, they got players in Europe. They're advancing. Jamaica, they got players in Europe. They're advancing. The U.S., they're light years ahead of Mexico today because they have players in Europe and they are advancing. So yes, while these players today are bad, it goes much, much deeper than just these players.
You want one of the Mexican players in Europe? Orbelín Pineda. How about that penalty? I mean, what do you think of that approach to a penalty kick? For me as a fan, it's the most frustrating thing. Of course, it's easy to say that in hindsight because he missed it, but why not just hammer it into the net?
Yeah, he basically hit it with his purse.
Yeah.
Down to the left.
Well, you can say that.
But I agree. I feel like Mexico is no longer considered the giants in CONCACAF. And it's not just because they only beat Jamaica 1-0. That is because of recent form and results, but also today. I mean, they come out, they have a great opportunity against Venezuela to get ahead. They started out really well. And then I just don't understand what Lozano is looking in Jimenez to continue to play him, because I understand he's young, he might be the future, he's building confidence in him, and maybe there's slim options, but he's not producing. And just because you play well in club doesn't mean that's always going to apply at this level. And so that might need to change. The personnel might have to change. And today I saw a Venezuela team come out in the second half, want to win. The effort that was there, the resilience, the confidence, the combination play, the way that they attacked, even the way that they defended, the way that they, just fought for Rondon to till the very end. You could tell that it was a full, complete team performance, even though they didn't start that way at the very beginning of the match. They ended, obviously, fighting for their lives, but you could tell that they wanted to win. They wanted to continue to get into the next rounds and to gain those 3 points. But this is a Mexico side that even from when I was young, I used to really value watching and appreciating the style that they played, and it's just no longer there. And so it's difficult for me to sit here and say that they are on their way to even have a team in the future that's going to be appreciated and valued by their fans, supporters, and federation.
Yeah, it's hard to find a sign of hope right now for Mexico. Go ahead.
Going on to Santi Jimenez, I see a player with so much external pressure And you could see him buckling under that pressure, how frustrated he was in that first half. I mean, he picks up a yellow, not for that foul, because it was one of many fouls and jawing attempts with the players and the referee. The frustrations were boiling over, and then he scuffs that 1v1 opportunity. That's a golden opportunity for any forward, any nine at any level. And this is a guy that may score goals at the club level, but when it comes to the Mexican national team, for whatever reason, he's not found the net consistently. And it just feels like that pressure is boiling over. This was supposed to be his tournament. Whether it was Jimmy Lozano or the Federation, they cleared the way for him to be the 9 in this tournament. Henry Martin, you're out. We know that Jimmy Lozano keeps going back to that Henry Martin well. He did it at the Olympics. He did it at the Gold Cup. He's doing it again. It's not going to happen here. This is your time. Jimmy Lozano gave him 60 minutes to put in a forward who has, what, 4 caps?
Yep.
4 caps, and who's 29 years of age. No pedigree with the Mexican national team, no real international future, and he'd rather him on the field than Santi Jimenez here. It tells you a lot.
I think Mexico was more dangerous.
They were. That may be circumstantial, but Memo Martinez certainly found the ball more and looked to be more dangerous, but I see a player right now that is clearly frustrated.